remember because the percentage is exactly the same.
Oh. Okay. So then I want to one final question, and that is, in your personal opinion, do you think that this is something that is an example of something that's bad or something that's okay?
It is bad. If I was an author earlier, I would be angry about it.
Okay. All right. So great. That's the kind of things that I wanted to know. And you know, again, you gave the facts first, and then your personal judgment. And I think your facts would convince me that I would want to look at. Anybody else want to talk about another example? I'd like to hear. Did you have? Who was the? I heard there was another hand that said. Yeah.
Last Thursday I do two papers, and they are totally the same, except the part of experiments. I think the later paper is just another try of experiment of the first paper. The purpose and the main idea and the conclusion are all the same. And there are 5 writers, and 2 of them are the same. And they are come from the same college.
Okay.
And the time, one is from 1994 July. And another is 1994 June.
Oh, okay. So they published 2 virtually identical papers?
Yes.
So that's probably duplicate publication, not plagiarized publication, but also it's generally thought that you're not supposed to submit the paper to many journals at one time. You're supposed to publish it once. That sounds like not only did they publish it twice, but they also submitted the paper to many journals at the same time because they were published too close in time, so which is another kind of issue. Well, this is good. This is really good data. This is the stuff we need to see. Anybody else want to tell a story?
The 2 papers I analyzed all the same except the data. I think the later one maybe copy the previous one and just change the data into manual fraction.
Do you think that they really did the later researchers really did the research and just put their numbers in there, or do you think that they just made it up?
Just duplication because the words they use relative are really similar. If he want to do the same experimental, he maybe search the experimental before he do it, and he will find there will be this one, and he won't use the same words.
Yeah, I think that. So generally, anytime there's an experiment, even if it reproduces something, there's some things that are different that reveal some new information. So was there any new information at all? Okay. Yeah, so all this is very good and statistically.
Now there were those instances, and yet many others in the trend took a different direction. Sometimes they were clearly updates by the same author or same research group, where they used some similar amounts, especially in the references or in the methods, and then in fact entirely duplicate methods in some cases, but then the update was clearly different, and so you could see that this is the same research group reporting something new. So in many cases what we catch with the computer has to be examined by the people to understand why these things might have happened, and there might be perfectly legitimate reasons, and yet in other cases there might be very suspicious reasons. And at that point it might be interesting for you to know what's the procedure that has been used with American and European papers along these lines?
You mean after there's been discovered?
Right, after there's been say a problem discovered such as the one that you pointed out.
First of all, our group is not a publication police force. So it's not our job to go in and report these things. It would be a very busy job, right? Clearly there's a lot of things that are discovered. At the same time, we want to report, we see that the damage that these things can be done because people are still using them. it's been like my decision and decision of the group that we would not become policemen. Okay? But by putting that data out and making it available on a publicly available website, there are other people who have gone and used that. It is entirely possible that we could change into a mode where we don't want to be a policeman, but what we want to be is more just simply report it. Okay? So one possibility that we could do is we could take these things and just simply send an email out to both journal editors and attach copies. That way we don't have to bother the authors, and we let the journals figure out this. So we may want to think about that as a strategy in the future. But then that starts getting us close to being kind of like a policeman, like we're reporting. My personal opinion is that it's very important, should we find these papers that are unethical, they need to be marked so that people know that they're unethical. And that can only happen if somebody reports it and they work on it. And by the way, it has happened. We did send out some emails for a study that we did, and there have been over 50 paper retractions and 70 investigations, launched from this. So we might want to consider doing this again. By the way, I was thinking about something. After we've had a little chance here to talk, one thing we could do is you could hand out these things and get working on it. I could go downstairs and get my talk on the computer. I gave this talk in Indonesia. It was 13 minutes long, with 2 minutes of question, 15 minutes long. And I could do that again, reproduce that here if you guys would like.
Could I ask you about the attitude of the other experts? So the people from the U.S. or from, did you say there were scientists from China who were concerned about research integrity?
Well, there were, this is right. There were scientists and government officials.
No, because it's female to female. Yeah, somebody walked off with the...
Okay. So for example, I know that there was a high Chinese high-level official, someone like the vice deputy for research in China. It was high level. I know it was high level because he came in a limo and gave a talk and then left. So he was associated, so he was.
Our guys do that too.
Yeah, and the cabinet member for education and research for Indonesia, Singapore, came and gave a talk as well. So those two people started the conference and saying about how important it was to have a conference like this. So, yeah. Okay.
So there's a lot of dialogue going on. Well, maybe we should just move downstairs then, if that's the.
Well, let's see.
We can't. I don't know, give Paul just a minute. And so I was curious. So the universal approach to this is one of cautious concern. Of everybody needs to be starting in on the research. That this is not a problem that's unique to any one country, but is typical, and that science is so important, that this part of science is at least so important, that it does need some kind of, at least, discovery or research to find out what the problems are.
Well, there are not very many groups doing that.
Yes.
So, by the way, just so you know, the typical group that works on ethics and research integrity,